Yup. Hello, guys. And yes, if you're listening to my voice, you can tell I'm still very, very sick. Hello, guys. Welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and again, I am still fighting a cold, a serious, horrendous cold, which has led to me sounding like a dude. And also, due to that sad predicament, I am once again too lazy to put on makeup. I know, guys, you gotta look at this grotesqueness for a little while longer. I'm just not motivated to put makeup on because I just feel disgusting as it is. Alright, so let's do this. Let's get right into it. Okay, this video is called Discovering the Dalek because it's talking about how the Daleks were created, founded, and therefore discovered, and why we know and love them today. Okay, Daleks, iconic villain of Doctor Who, but also, one time they were even regarded as a folk hero of British television. The Daleks, where did they begin? Okay, now I know a lot of you probably already know about the beginning of the issue of the Daleks and how they were not wanted in BBC, but at the same time, I'm worried that maybe there are some people who probably have not seen Adventure in Space and Time on my channel, so forgive me, guys, for telling you, some of you guys some information you already know, but I'm going to backtrack for those people and then get into lesser known stuff later. Okay, when it comes to the Dalek, so Doctor Who, the TV show, aired in 1963 to the first story, An Unearthly Child, and by the way, the William Hartnell era initially had different titles for each episode, but we're still going to go with the overall title of one particular story that we have now. So the first one starts with An Unearthly Child, where the Doctor and Susan, they're trapped in 1963 for a bit. Well, not trapped, but they're staying there for a bit because they've been pretty much separated from their home, which we do not know what the name of that home is yet. And then they meet up with Ian and Barbara, who are two school teachers, and the Doctor pretty much kidnaps them and takes them away, and they land in the caveman times. And eventually they get out of the situation, and they land on another planet where they encounter the Daleks. Here is the thing. The Daleks were a creation that technically, if BBC had its way, never would have come about. From the very beginning, Sidney Newman, as well as many of the people at the BBC, were all about getting children hooked on real history and real science, but no BEMs, which stands for bug-eyed monsters. They specifically were against it. But the script of the Daleks was written, and then of course, BBC hated the idea, hated the Daleks, and were not supposed to air. And we even have a quote here that Verity Lambert says about when it came to the Daleks. Verity Lambert was the first producer of Doctor Who. And she said, Sidney Newman, when I first did the Daleks, was absolutely furious with me because the one thing he said to me was, I don't want any BEMs. Bug-eyed monsters. When the Daleks came up, there was a kind of scientific factor of this planet having been radiated and the Daleks having to build these machines to put around them in order to move because they had been so seriously mutilated by the effects of radiation. But when it came to anything more complicated than that, I was just lost. We did try to put some kind of scientific thing in, but the stories were much more purely entertainment, I think, than science. So, this is what it was like. And, again, Sidney Newman hated the absolute idea of it, but so did many people at the BBC. And they did not want it to air. They literally did not want the Daleks to ever come about. But the Daleks did. You know the real reason why? Okay. It turns out that it was simply because there were no other stories that were done in time. Yes, BBC initially wanted to scrap the story of the Daleks and just completely do away with it, but they couldn't. They had to air it because the other story, the one that they probably would have wanted to focus on more, Marco Polo, was not finished yet. So they unfortunately could not take it out of that slot and put the Marco Polo in the slot of the Daleks because Marco Polo was just definitely not finished yet by any means. Now, for the longest time, I did research on this, but luckily I got another bit of information from another book that did confirm this. Okay, so at this point, again, this is Verity Lambert speaking again. At this point, everything seemed to be very expensive because we were starting off, and you have to amortize costs. I think the BBC just got very, very nervous and said, what is this peculiar thing which seems to be costing a lot of money and doesn't seem to be really good? So we will stop it. Yes, stopping the Daleks. They wanted to stop it after the first 8, and I said, you can't stop it after the first 8 because this is a 7-part serial. BBC wanted to stop it after a certain point, but the only reason the Daleks aired was because Verity Lambert said you can't stop it, it's a 7-part serial. And there was a sort of moment when Doctor Who, it hung in the balance. But we recorded quite close to our time of transmission. We were only, I think, about 2 weeks behind, so the first Dalek one went on. And by the second Dalek episode, it was an absolute runaway success, and the BBC said, well, right, go on. Yep, that's what happened. And there was even more drama in the background, where at that point, Verity Lambert was also having problems with the BBC visual effects department, who, and I quote, refused to work on Doctor Who in protest at the influx of commercial television personnel. Yeah. With the result that the Daleks were made by an outside firm. The Daleks were fully designed by an outside firm, not BBC's visual effects department. And the Daleks would eventually be designed by Raymond Cusick. He designed the design of the Dalek, which has now become so iconic today. And then after that serial, The Daleks, aired, it became a sensation in Britain. You had children walking around shouting "exterminate" with cardboard boxes on their heads. It was a runaway hit that fully established Doctor Who, and children were always wondering when the Daleks would return. Here's the funny thing. It comes down to not just the designer, Cusick, who did a great job designing the Daleks, but the surprise of the writer himself, Terry Nation. Here's how much the Daleks almost did not come to fruition. Terry Nation was working on other things when he got a call where he was asked to write a story for Doctor Who, a children's program. And he was slightly insulted by the idea of writing for Children's Hour, so he at first flat out said no to the offer. He was not going to write for Doctor Who. But then he was working with another guy doing another project, and they had a falling out later that day or that night. And Terry Nation cannot remember at all if he walked out in high dudgeon or if he was fired. Either way, he found himself on a train back to London out of work. So he called up Doctor Who again and said, never mind, I will write something for the show. But soon into being commissioned to write something for Doctor Who, again guys, so sorry for my terrible voice, sorry, but still, writing for Doctor Who, he got another job for a cruise liner or something where he was going to write a series for something else. And he was gung-ho about that. So he wrote The Daleks super quickly. This 7-parter. He wrote 1 episode per day. So the entire 7-part story of the Daleks was written in 1 week. So Terry Nation could go on and write for this other gig he wanted to do that he thought he would get more prestige doing. And then, to his utter surprise, the episodes, he didn't have high expectations of his script. But then it aired, he watched the first episode and he was surprised to find that it was actually quite good. At the end of the first episode, as we all know, we see Barbara shout, while you see the eye stalk of the Dalek coming onto the screen and then shouting at Barbara, but he immediately started getting calls saying, "What is it? What is this creature you created?" Then the next episode, the Daleks fully came into their own, and that's when Dalek mania fully became rampant, and you saw Dalek paraphernalia everywhere. It was a big commercial success. Like, there were just toys made of the Daleks, even items made of the Daleks that just kids could consume. And then also, eventually Terry Nation would go on to try and take the Daleks to America to be successful in America, which is why they didn't show up for a while, and after the second Doctor's first season. But also, on top of that, when it comes to the Daleks, there would go on to be 2 Dalek movies with Peter Cushing as the Doctor, or a Doctor-oriented character, and Peter Cushing, to this day, has fond memories playing the Doctor or the Doctor-inspired character. He still has a fond love for doing it. But yes, that is actually the overall arcing journey to how the Daleks got created. Initially, BBC did not like the idea of them at all, thought it was a terrible idea. Sidney Newman, the creator of the show, thought it was a terrible idea. Terry Nation initially did not want to write for it. He ended up writing for it just because a gig fell through. So he fate kind of twisted its way in a very unique way. Verity Lambert was happy to get him on to do it. And then the only reason the Daleks fully aired was because they could not get another episode or another story airing in time. All of that to create the Daleks. A chain of incidents led to one of the most iconic villains, not only in Doctor Who, but in television. So what does discovering the Dalek really show us as an audience? What does it show us? It shows us that no matter all the negativity that can come your way, sometimes it's still worth believing in anyway, and sometimes it takes a lot of no's for that yes to fully come. So sometimes you should not lose courage, or sometimes you can find success in the oddest of places. So keep yourself open to as much as you possibly can. However, when it comes to this video, Discovering the Dalek, ironically, I titled this after a book I wanted to write, but never got around to write, called Discovering the Dalek, where I saw a news clipping of some people who discovered a Dalek in a creek near where they lived, and they were pulling the Dalek out of the creek. They have no idea how this Dalek got into the creek. It's over in Britain, where somehow a Dalek was found underwater. It was a prop. A Dalek prop was found underwater. And they pulled the Dalek out. And then I said I was going to weave that, the idea of finding a Dalek randomly in your creek of a show you loved. I mean, coming from the show you loved, and kind of going back and forth between how the Daleks got created by Terry Nation at the same time. And then I saw an adventure in space and time, and I was like, never mind, it was pretty much done already. Not the Dalek being found in a creek part, but the idea of Terry Nation and the creation of the Daleks was done already. That was almost as painful as that time I wanted to write a whole play about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern from Hamlet having their own story, until I found out Tom Stoppard had written a play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Ah, damn. Just damn. It's like someone cutting you and then pouring salt on your wound and then lemon juice on top of it. But either way, there you go. So now, guys, you know the history. For those of you who did not already know, now you know some of the history about how the Daleks got created. If any of my facts are incorrect, please let me know. I'm going off of the research I collected from special features, DVDs, and books I've read. But sometimes half of history is guessing, other half is biased. So for all I know, the books could have told me the wrong thing. Don't be afraid to let me know. But yes, now we know a little bit more insight into the journey of how the Dalek got created. Thank you guys so very much, and I want to hear your feedback. If so, I'll talk about maybe one day, I might talk about how the Cybermen got created. And again, hopefully my voice will be better by then. Guys, you were awesome. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.